Until recently, the circumstances surrounding the birth of the seventh heir to the British throne remained shrouded in mystery. However, a recently obtained birth certificate shed light on the birth date of Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, May 6th. Yet, these official details only fueled the fire of already rampant rumors and speculations that have engulfed social media. At the center of attention is the sensational claim that Meghan Markle did not, in fact, carry Archie. This astonishing news spread with incredible speed, bolstered by a series of surprising proofs allegedly leaked from within the royal family itself. Among the alleged evidence are photographs of her pregnant belly, displaying unusual changes, a video showing the belly seemingly folding when she bent over, and a mysteriously delayed birth announcement. Further intensifying the suspicions are clear inconsistencies in the timeline of photos, and, most intriguingly, a recent denial issued by Buckingham Palace itself. Proponents of this theory are convinced that none of this can be mere coincidence, but rather points to a meticulously orchestrated plan, aiming for nothing less than the usurpation of the crown. If Meghan truly wasn't pregnant, then how did Archie come into existence? This question hangs in the air, shrouding the entire situation in intrigue, with key questions remaining unanswered. What motives could have driven Meghan and Harry to lie? And if the pregnancy was a fabrication, does Archie retain his legitimate place in the line of succession? These are not mere rumors. This is a crisis of succession. And it seems that harsh truths are on the verge of being revealed, shaking the very foundations of the monarchy. Part 1. The Mysteries of Archie's Birth. The story of Archie Harrison's birth, Meghan Markle's first child, holds something deeply contradictory and enigmatic, raising numerous questions. From the alleged pregnancy to the actual delivery, everything unfolded in such a strange and unconventional manner that it's difficult to imagine for a member of the British royal family accustomed to strict protocols. One of the most striking deviations was the absence of official photographs of Meghan leaving the hospital with her newborn. This fact starkly contrasts with Princess Diana and Kate Middleton, who appeared before the public immediately after giving birth, adhering to traditional royal protocol. Instead, Meghan and Prince Harry announced their son's birth via a simple press release, which was unusual in itself. Only a few days later did they appear in public with Archie in a carefully staged setting at Windsor Castle. No camera ever captured them leaving the hospital, leaving a gaping hole in the timeline of events that remains unfilled by concrete evidence to this day. This lack of transparency only intensified suspicions. Inconsistencies began to emerge from the very moment the birth was announced. On May 6, 2019, the royal family reported that Meghan had gone into labor that morning. Yet just minutes later, an incredibly short span of time, they stated that the baby had been born at 5:26 a.m. on the same day. This time gap was so brief and peculiar that many questioned whether it was simply an error, or if the entire event had been pre-planned and announced with a delay. A veil of secrecy surrounds the birth of Archie, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry's first child, sparking a wave of rumors and conspiracy theories that have stirred public discourse. If the official version is to be believed, the child was born at dawn. So why was the news of this joyous event only announced a full 12 hours later? And why has none of the medical staff, allegedly present at the birth, come forward with public confirmation? In previous royal births, doctors readily shared details with the press, but this time, the silence from medical personnel only strengthens suspicions of a cover-up. The oddities are not limited to the moment of birth. Photographs of Meghan during her pregnancy sparked serious debate and gave rise to numerous conspiracy theories. At many public events, her belly seemed to change size and position with incredible speed, sometimes even within a few hours, which appears physiologically impossible. One incident, where Meghan bent over while greeting the public and her belly seemed to slightly deform, caused a real stir online. The video of this moment instantly went viral, fueling suspicions of the use of a moon bump, a silicone prosthetic designed to simulate pregnancy. Some bloggers, analyzing Meghan's outfits, claimed that the edge of this prosthetic belly was repeatedly visible under her dresses, especially in certain lighting, which only added fuel to the fire of speculation. Another mysterious detail was the alteration of Archie's birth certificate. Initially, the mother field listed Rachel Meghan Markle, but the entry was later edited to Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, removing her personal name. The palace explained this as adherence to royal protocol, yet it only intensified public suspicions regarding Meghan's true role in the child's birth. Did another woman carry and give birth to Archie, with Meghan merely playing the role of the official mother? And is the removal of her name from the birth certificate an attempt to conceal the identity of the true biological mother, leaving us to await new, sensational revelations? Meghan's family, particularly her father Thomas Markle, openly expressed doubts about the circumstances of his grandson's birth. He stated that he had never seen a single photograph of Archie after his birth. According to Mr. Markle, he only saw Meghan in media photos during her pregnancy and never met Archie in person. If even the biological father remains uninformed, the question arises, can the public trust information coming from this couple? The absence of details typical for such events from the royal press office, such as photos of doctors, ultrasound results, or the presence of a medical team at the newborn's presentation, only exacerbates suspicions. Some unofficial sources claim that Meghan did not give birth in a hospital, as announced, but in some private location whose whereabouts are kept secret. Others suggest the child might have been brought from the U.S., where a surrogate mother carried him, and the documents were then legalized in the UK. Of course, some might argue that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex merely sought privacy. However, the catch is that Meghan and Harry's public relations team made a clear promise to timely inform the press about the onset of labor. This was a voluntarily undertaken commitment that, however, was ignored at the most crucial moment. In response to media inquiries, the palace issued an evasive statement that not only failed to shed light on the situation, but also accused the press of misinterpreting events. And this was just the starting point for a subsequent chain of events. In the short period between Meghan's Instagram post about going into labor and the official announcement of Archie's birth, numerous journalists directly inquired whether the baby had already been born. Notably, palace representatives categorically denied this fact. This was not merely an error or misunderstanding, but direct misinformation. While many may endlessly discuss the conspiracy theories surrounding Meghan, including questions about her pregnancy or the use of surrogacy, the core of the problem lies elsewhere. Harry and Meghan provided false information, and perhaps the palace was not even aware of it. But the story doesn't end there. If anyone believed Meghan Markle had learned from previous experiences, they were profoundly mistaken. A highly controversial video emerged, apparently showing Meghan dancing and smiling while in labor with her daughter Lilibet. The short clip captured her and Prince Harry dancing in a hospital room. According to Meghan herself, this video was filmed to induce labor for her daughter Lilibet when she was 41 weeks pregnant. However, this clip sparked a wave of public criticism and once again fueled conspiracy theories that she had used a prosthetic belly. Some social media users expressed deep skepticism that Meghan was genuinely pregnant. They asserted that the large belly in the video was merely a prop and insisted that the footage was staged or even generated using artificial intelligence. Others noted that Meghan was wearing jewelry and athletic wear instead of hospital pajamas, and moved quite freely, which, in their view, was atypical for a woman in late pregnancy. In the video, Meghan appears in tight athletic clothing, performing movements mimicking rowing, shoulder rotations, and even twerking, a dance move emphasizing the hips, right next to a hospital bed. Prince Harry, in a hoodie, joins his wife to the tune of the Baby Mama Dance, which went viral on TikTok in 2021. Princess Lilibet was born that same year. Meghan captioned the video. This also happened 4 years ago. Both of our babies were born more than a week after their due dates. So when spicy food, long walks, and acupuncture didn't help, there was only one thing left. However, what seemed to be a personal and happy moment was perceived by many experts as a display of bad taste and inappropriateness. Ingrid Seward, a royal commentator, expressed her opinion in the Sun newspaper, noting that while the couple is free to do as they please, publishing such content online raises questions. In her view, Meghan may not realize when to stop and considers this act vulgar, excessive, and solely aimed at attracting attention. Seward emphasized that despite constant claims of privacy and security, Meghan herself puts her life on display, demonstrating hypocrisy regarding her own statements. In turn, proponents of conspiracy theories argue that Meghan Markle's dance movements appear unnaturally light for a woman in late pregnancy. They express doubts about her ease, believing that her movements do not reflect signs of significant abdominal strain. Some amateur analysts went even further, meticulously studying her posture and weight distribution in video recordings, attempting to find evidence that her pregnancy might not have been genuine. Some media experts suggest that Meghan may be aiming to create a kind of matriarchal myth for herself, where she acts not just as a mother, but as a symbol of liberation and unconventional individuality. The release of this video could be part of her personal branding strategy, aimed at asserting her distinctiveness from traditional royal duchesses. However, such a display of uniqueness could lead to a loss of public trust, which is a very fragile value in the age of social media. In an interview, Meghan touched on this topic, confirming that the video was her way to reclaim joy and live authentically for her audience, emphasizing its sincerity. She stated that one must live their truth, and this moment, which happened 4 years ago, reminds her that despite the external noise, true joy and an honest life continue to unfold behind the scenes. She also expressed gratitude for returning to social media, describing it as her personal space to spread joy, despite negative feedback, especially from the UK, where many believe she tries too hard to attract attention. For the British royal family, this incident could potentially further undermine their already damaged image, since Meghan and Harry stepped back from their senior royal duties. Although Buckingham Palace has not issued official comments on the video, this silence leaves the British public and the world in a state of bewilderment. The question arises, are they avoiding revealing the truth, or do they simply prefer to distance themselves from what they can no longer control? There is an unwritten, yet fundamental principle that every reigning British monarch upholds as sacred doctrine. No one has the right to distort facts concerning the rights of succession. In a constitutional monarchy, where the throne serves not merely as a symbol but as the spiritual bedrock of the nation, any deviation related to royal lineage can destabilize the very political and social structure that has evolved over centuries. This is precisely why rumors that Meghan Markle might have faked her pregnancy, especially with baby Archie occupying a specific place in the line of succession, are not just tabloid fodder, but a profound institutional problem. In accordance with the immutable rules of succession in the United Kingdom, only those offspring with a direct blood connection to the Windsor dynasty can be included in the list of potential heirs to the throne. This genealogical link cannot be arbitrarily established, despite legislative acts governing succession having been modernized to eradicate gender discrimination. The fundamental principle remains inviolable: biological kinship, blood ties. Consequently, if one were to assume that Meghan indeed resorted to a surrogate mother, meticulously concealing this fact, as numerous conspiracy theories assert, it would be tantamount to a meticulously planned deception. And this deception, if confirmed, would represent not merely a clever manipulation of public opinion, but a treacherous betrayal of the trust placed in the institution of monarchy. One of the first to raise the alarm was journalist Dan Wootton. In 2019, while serving as executive editor at The Sun, he showed remarkable courage by sending 8 direct questions to Buckingham Palace regarding the circumstances of Archie's birth. This was an unprecedented step that in itself indicated how alarmed and bewildered the palace was. Why was the birth of an heir accompanied by such unprecedented secrecy? Why was the prince's birth shrouded in the deepest mystery? These questions remain unanswered to this day, and will, in all likelihood, continue to stir public opinion for many years to come. Under normal circumstances, the birth of a royal family member is announced with maximum openness. The name of the attending physician, the location of the maternity hospital, the exact time of the infant's birth are all made public, and an official bulletin is displayed at the palace gates. However, in Archie's case, nothing of the sort occurred. There were no official statements about doctors, no information about the hospital, no traditional golden easel with a notice, and no celebratory bell ringing. Only a belated press release, skillfully disguised as a carefully prepared Instagram post. Everything was so suspiciously quiet that it defied any reasonable explanation. What is even more alarming is that the palace tried to project an image of complete well-being, yet contradictions quickly emerged. One source claimed Meghan was in labor. Another insisted she had already given birth. And when press representatives began actively investigating and demanding clarity, palace officials were unable to confirm their own statements. They became confused in their accounts, evaded direct answers, and even cited unfortunate email errors, thereby only exacerbating an already tense situation. Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister known for her controversial statements, is among the few people who shared her youth. Despite their current estranged relationship, Samantha relentlessly questions Meghan's flawless public image. In one of her rare interviews, she ominously remarked, "If Meghan used a surrogate mother for Archie's birth, then it ceases to be solely her private matter. It becomes a matter of national importance, as it could directly impact the line of succession." This statement resonated like a clap of thunder in an already agitated information space, rife with questions about the Sussexes' authenticity. According to Samantha, if Archie, Meghan and Harry's first child, was not biologically born to Meghan, his compliance with the strict requirements for inheriting the throne becomes questionable. Critics saw this as confirmation of their suspicions. Imagine the consequences. The discovery of a substituted child in the line of succession, born to an anonymous woman or secretly adopted, would lead to disaster. The crown cannot be passed to a person without royal blood. This would be a serious breach of tradition. English history shows that any doubts about the royal family's lineage have caused periods of instability. From power struggles during the Tudor era to suspicions of monarchs' illegitimate children, Great Britain has always been wary of the purity of its bloodline. If Meghan Markle concealed the method of her child's birth not only for privacy, but also to preserve his place in the line of succession, this goes beyond a family secret. It would constitute a betrayal of trust between the monarchy and the people, as the throne relies not on image or PR campaigns, but on centuries-old traditions, transparency of origin, and principles that the royal family has upheld for generations. The British public, highly sensitive to the issue of succession, is expressing its opinion. Questions are being raised on forums. If Meghan and Harry have stepped back from royal duties, why do they retain their titles and secure their children's place in the line of succession? Is there a long-term plan allowing their descendants to claim the crown in the future? If this is based on deception, it poses a threat to the monarchy. Meghan and Harry claim to want to modernize the monarchy, but their actions, including the way their children were born and their social media activity, have only exacerbated the chaos within the palace. They fail to realize that when wearing a crown, it's impossible to fully control public opinion, and every attempt at control erodes trust. Despite the questions and contradictions, it's evident that Harry and Meghan lied. The public, who had anticipated a royal moment, was left with an unsolved mystery concerning not only the child, but also trust. The loss of this trust could shatter the royal family's image, and even the crown may not be able to salvage the situation. Section 4. Demonstrative indifference and distancing. While young mothers often prefer to dedicate themselves to caring for newborns, temporarily setting aside professional ambitions, Meghan Markle sparked a wave of surprise with her detached demeanor and energetic activity. Just weeks after Archie's birth, the Duchess of Sussex triumphantly returned to the spotlight, not as a nurturing mother, but as a driven businesswoman and fashion icon. It gave the impression that she had no intention of immersing herself in the joys of motherhood, viewing the role merely as another career step, quickly moving on to pursue her personal plans for fame. The first event to puzzle the public was the launch of a charity clothing collection organized by Meghan just a couple of months after giving birth. Her radiant appearance, slender figure, as if she hadn't endured the rigors of pregnancy, and confident demeanor raised questions. The lack of any mention of the child, or any signs of maternal disorientation typical of new mothers, only heightened public doubt about the sincerity of her maternal feelings. Soon after, Meghan left her newborn son in the care of others in the UK, and traveled alone to the U.S. to support her friend Serena Williams in the U.S. Open final. Despite the brevity of the trip, it caused significant public outcry. To this day, not a single photo has been presented showing Meghan tenderly caring for her son, as many royal mothers before her had done. Early the following year, when Harry and Meghan officially stepped back from royal duties and returned to the UK to finalize formalities, Archie, according to some reports, remained in Canada under the care of a nanny and security. The boy was not present at any significant events. He was not seen with his grandparents or other members of the royal family. This sparked a wave of criticism, alleging that Meghan was deliberately isolating the child from his royal heritage, placing him in a carefully controlled environment devoid of interaction with relatives and the opportunity to feel a connection to the Windsor dynasty. For the British public, such behavior was not merely emotionally detached, but also contrary to the established traditions of raising young princes. For a long time, Archie's life was hidden from public view. There were no photographs, news, or any information about his development. Meghan and Harry decided to completely restrict access to information about the child, turning him into a mystery. Against the backdrop of their own media activity, expressed through numerous interviews, documentaries, and commercial deals, many questioned whether they genuinely sought to protect their son's privacy. Why then not do the same for their own lives? It's probable that Archie's disappearance from public view was not so much a display of concern for his safety, as an attempt to avoid growing suspicions regarding his origin and even his very existence. When the public realized that Archie's upbringing was taking place far from the royal family, Doubts only intensified. There were no photographs capturing moments of tender affection between Queen Elizabeth or Prince Charles and their grandson. This fact sharply contrasted with traditional images demonstrating the bond between generations of monarchs. Such distancing is difficult to explain solely by geographical location or busy schedules. A sense of deliberateness emerged. Viewers suspected that Meghan aimed to create a new life for her son, separated from royal traditions and values, shielding him from the influence of those who might challenge her decisions. Even before the child's birth, Meghan Markle caused outrage in the UK and US with her extravagant spending. She was criticized for excessive lavishness. Reportedly, her maternity wardrobe expenses exceeded Duchess Kate's by 7 times. According to some accounts, the Duchess of Sussex spent over $600,000 on 75 public outfits during her pregnancy. Public irritation was also fueled by Meghan Markle's constant eagerness to showcase her pregnancy. The Duchess was accused of excessive theatricality. Critics argued that her deliberate cradling of her belly was merely a performative gesture. In online communities, she was ridiculed, with ironical remarks suggesting Meghan was perhaps afraid the public would forget about her pregnancy, as if she were the only woman ever to carry a child. The most scandalous accusation was the suggestion that Meghan faked her pregnancy using a prosthetic belly. On social media, especially Twitter, hashtags like #moonbump and #fake_pregnancy emerged, spreading alleged evidence and criticism against the Duchess of Sussex for the alleged staging. Photos were published comparing the size and shape of Meghan's belly, which, according to users, changed unnaturally, sometimes growing, sometimes shrinking, sometimes appearing inflated, then flat, then square, then round. In some videos, Meghan stood and sat with apparent ease despite a seemingly heavy belly. In a documentary released last October, the Duchess tearfully admitted that no one had asked about her well-being during her first pregnancy. Clearly, Meghan faced negative public reaction due to relentless criticism and suspicion. Part 5. Manipulative Media Tactics. Meghan's belly unexpectedly became the central focus of attention. It was what first drew the keen eye of Internet users, who began to doubt the veracity of what was happening. Observers noted striking changes. One day, the belly looked voluminous, and the next, almost flat. Viral videos showing Meghan's belly unnaturally folding when she tried to sit spawned a wave of speculation about whether the pregnancy was real or a cleverly staged act. Instead of quashing the burgeoning speculation, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle chose to shroud themselves in silence, which only exacerbated public interest and encouraged belief in hidden motives. The initial tactical avoidance of the topic by leading media outlets proved to be a serious miscalculation, resulting in Buckingham Palace, a bastion of order and tradition, appearing in an unfavorable light of chaos and helplessness. The Sussexes' team's attempts to justify their secrecy by claiming a need for privacy proved untenable. This was not about an ordinary couple, but members of the royal family, whose existence is funded by taxpayers and whose child holds a place in the line of succession. Confidentiality ceased to be a private matter, transforming into an issue of public trust. Every deviation from tradition in favor of personal interests ignited scandal like a smoldering fire. The situation was exacerbated by Harry and Meghan not only spiraling out of control, but also dragging Buckingham Palace into the disarray. The symbol of order and immutability became a shadow, forced to hastily react to PR disasters and evade direct answers. The palace lost control over public opinion and shifted into damage control mode, which became a quiet yet palpable collapse of the monarchy's power structure. leading to serious consequences. Loyal royal family fans, who had formed its core for generations, found themselves disoriented. The press, a former ally, felt deceived and angered. The public, whose trust is the foundation of the monarchy's legitimacy, began asking uncomfortable questions. If they are not transparent about the child's birth, what else might be hidden? The opportunity to modernize the monarchy, bringing humanity and accessibility to it, was missed. The Sussexes turned the situation into a media catastrophe, where inconsistency, secrecy, and manipulation eroded the royal aura. This was not a regrettable oversight, but a painful fall from prestige into chaos, the echoes of which are still heard today. Questions multiplied and were not limited to the births of Archie and Lilibet. Take, for example, the official photo shoot at Windsor Castle, where Harry and Meghan presented their son to the world in a perfectly staged setting, excluding independent press. The shooting time, 12:40 p.m. British time, perfectly coincided with morning shows in the U.S., 7:40 a.m. Coincidence? Or a conscious prioritization of American media over duties to the British Crown? Since when should a public moment of the royal family adjust to a private schedule? All of this resembled a two-front game, one for the American media, the other for the British monarchy. Soon after, another mystery arose surrounding the circumstances of Archie's birth. Prince Harry, sharing his recollections, did not hide his emotions, praising Meghan as an extraordinary woman who showed heroism in the delivery room. However, a strange detail lingered. Official palace representatives never provided confirmation regarding the child's place of birth. This fact immediately sparked a wave of assumptions and conjectures. Up until this point, every royal birth had been accompanied by detailed documentation. Place, date, list of attending doctors, everything was recorded and made public. Why then was there such unprecedented secrecy this time? If the birth proceeded normally within a hospital, what could necessitate such meticulous concealment? Such withholding of basic information not only failed to reassure the public, but significantly heightened its suspicions. The more details are hidden, the stronger the conviction grows that something extraordinary is being concealed. It is in this atmosphere of unspoken truths that trust begins to inexorably erode. And once these cracks spread in public consciousness, even a powerful palace will be unable to restore its former standing. Suppose Meghan did indeed fake her pregnancy. In that case, this situation would instantly cease to be a private matter, transforming into a potential threat to the legitimacy of the British monarchy. The appearance of a child in the royal family whose origin was not officially documented, yet who was included in the official line of succession, would raise numerous questions. Inevitably, the question would arise, was this a mere coincidence or a meticulously planned operation? And who was behind this deception? Such a revelation would not only undermine trust in the institution of monarchy, but also raise a profound question about who truly has the right to inherit the crown in the future. And while the truth can be temporarily concealed, it cannot be permanently buried. But the most sensational discovery was yet to come. Documents that were meant to remain secret unexpectedly became public, overturning all previous understandings of this story. Part 6. Secret Documents That Shook the Foundations. In late 2020, an event occurred that forever altered public opinion about the Meghan Markle scandal. An anonymous source, presumably from medical circles, provided journalists with a series of documents that, if authentic, completely refute the official version of events. These materials included medical records, financial transactions, and even correspondence between private clinics in Los Angeles and London. The most shocking revelation was that the documents seemingly confirm Meghan's use of not one, but several surrogate mothers for both pregnancies. According to these materials, the entire process was organized through a network of intermediaries, including lawyers, medical consultants, and public relations specialists. The documents revealed a detailed plan, developed as early as 2018, aimed at creating a convincing illusion of pregnancy for the public, while the actual births took place in an environment of the strictest secrecy. According to the presented materials, the Duchess of Sussex may never have carried either Archie or Lilibet. It is alleged that she might have been involved in an elaborate staging, which included the use of advanced prosthetics, consultations with Hollywood makeup artists, and even specialized training to mimic the demeanor of pregnant women. The most sensational aspect of these revelations is the suggestion that the children's biological parents could be entirely unrelated individuals, bearing no kinship to the royal family. If these claims are true, then Archie and Lilibet are not only not Meghan's biological children, but also lack a genetic connection to Prince Harry. This circumstance casts doubt on their legitimate place in the line of succession, which could represent an unprecedented scandal in the history of the British monarchy. Such a deception, if it indeed occurred, casts a shadow over the royal family's reputation and undermines trust in the institution of monarchy as a whole. The documents also include correspondence between Meghan's representatives and private agencies specializing in surrogate mother selection. These letters discuss strict criteria for selecting candidates, including their physical appearance, health status, and willingness to sign non-disclosure agreements. Most shockingly, the correspondence mentions the need to find women who would agree to completely relinquish their parental rights without claiming any future contact with the children. Financial reports show transfers of large sums of money to the accounts of various medical institutions and private individuals during the period corresponding to Meghan's alleged pregnancies. The amounts of these sums significantly exceed typical expenses for medical care for pregnant women. Furthermore, some payments were addressed to companies specializing in creating realistic prosthetics for the film industry, which supports the hypotheses about the Duchess's use of artificial bellies. After these documents were provided to several major publications, the reaction was immediate. Although no reputable media outlet dared to publish these materials without independent verification of their authenticity, information about their existence instantly spread across social media. The online community perceived this leak as long-awaited confirmation of their long-held suspicions, while supporters of Meghan and Harry called the documents an elaborate fabrication. Buckingham Palace, confronted with this new crisis, was forced to break its usual silence. The official statement was concise, yet weighty. The palace called the documents entirely fabricated and vowed to take legal action against those disseminating them. However, this statement could not stem the wave of speculation and conspiracy theories that flooded the media landscape with renewed vigor. Meghan and Harry, through their representatives, categorically rejected the authenticity of the documents, calling them a malicious attempt at discredit. They announced their intention to sue anyone who disseminates these materials and demanded an official investigation into the source of the leak. However, their aggressive reaction only heightened public suspicion that the documents might contain a grain of truth. Opinions among experts in document analysis who gained access to the materials under strict anonymity were sharply divided. Some specialists insisted on the authenticity of the presented documents, pointing to the presence of hard-to-reproduce details that are virtually impossible to fabricate. Others, conversely, drew attention to certain inconsistencies in style and formatting that could indicate probable falsification. Such uncertainty only added fuel to an already volatile situation. At the same time, parallel to the expert evaluation of the documents, a number of independent journalists undertook their own investigations, seeking to verify the veracity of the information that had leaked into the public domain. Their efforts led to the discovery of new circumstances that further complicated the overall picture. Specifically, it was found that some medical institutions mentioned in the scandalous documents indeed specialize in providing surrogacy services and are known for working with high-profile clients requiring maximum confidentiality. Moreover, it was established that some financial transactions appearing in the documents correspond to real banking operations, traces of which can be found in public financial reports. While this is not direct proof of the authenticity of all documentation, this fact adds an additional layer of plausibility that is difficult to ignore. The situation became even more convoluted after several individuals, claiming involvement in the medical institutions mentioned in the documents, agreed to give anonymous interviews. Their accounts contained astonishing details about how they were allegedly involved in an operation to conceal the truth about the true origin of Meghan's children. Although it was not possible to independently verify these testimonies, their consistency and detailed nature made a strong impression on the public. One witness, who identified as a former employee of a private clinic located in Los Angeles, recounted how he was tasked with preparing a special room for a highly important client who demanded the strictest secrecy. According to him, the entire procedure took place under conditions more akin to a spy operation than a normal medical birth. He claimed to have personally seen a woman in late pregnancy who did not resemble Meghan Markle being brought to the clinic, and a few days after the birth, the newborn was handed over to people he took to be representatives of the royal family. Another witness, identifying as a nurse from an elite London clinic, shared an even more sensational story. She stated that she was involved in a special procedure that consisted of creating fictitious medical records for a famous patient. According to her, she was instructed to prepare documents indicating that a certain woman had given birth in their clinic, although in reality, no birth had occurred there. She also noted that she received generous compensation for her silence and signed numerous non-disclosure agreements. These testimonies, despite the lack of independent confirmation, formed a strong conviction in the public consciousness that a much more complex and troubling truth might be hidden behind the official version of events. Social media instantly reacted to the developments, and hashtags related to this scandal trended worldwide. Among monarchy experts, disagreements arose regarding the significance of the disclosed information. Some opined that if the document's authenticity were confirmed, it would result in an unprecedented crisis for the British Crown, capable of questioning the legitimacy of the monarchical institution. Others warned against disseminating unconfirmed data, which could cause irreparable damage to the reputation of the innocent and undermine trust in journalistic practices. Meanwhile, the political repercussions of the scandal began to be felt at the highest levels of power. A number of parliamentarians insisted on an official investigation into the circumstances of Archie and Lilibet's births. In their view, if the children are not Prince Harry's blood descendants, their inclusion in the line of succession is a direct violation of fundamental principles of the British Constitution. The Prime Minister, finding himself in a delicate situation, was forced to navigate between the need to support the monarchy and public demands for transparency. His reserved statements that the government was closely monitoring developments were perceived by many as insufficient, which provoked a further intensification of political pressure. The reaction of the international community was no less tumultuous. Monarchical states, traditionally maintaining friendly relations with the British royal family, found themselves in a difficult position. Some diplomats, in private conversations, expressed concerns that the scandal could negatively impact the international standing of the monarchical institution as a whole. In the United States, where Meghan and Harry settled after stepping down from royal duties, the reaction was particularly sharp. American media, previously largely supportive of the couple, now began asking more pointed questions about their honesty and transparency. Some influential American journalists openly called for an independent investigation, arguing that American society has a right to know the truth. About individuals claiming to be cultural role models. Meghan and Harry's business partners also found themselves in a difficult situation. Netflix, Spotify, and other companies that had signed multi-million-dollar contracts with the couple were forced to reconsider their relationships. Although none of the partners immediately terminated their contracts, insiders reported tense negotiations and attempts to find ways to minimize potential reputational damage. Charitable organizations collaborating with Meghan and Harry also faced a dilemma. Some began to distance themselves from the couple, fearing that an association with them could harm their own reputation. Others, conversely, defended the couple, asserting that their philanthropic work should not suffer due to personal scandals. Meghan and Harry's psychological state also became a subject of discussion. Sources close to the couple reported that they are experiencing a period of intense stress and are considering a complete withdrawal from public life. It was rumored that they are consulting with leading lawyers and crisis management specialists, attempting to find a way out of the current situation. At the epicenter of the unfolding scandal were also the children of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Archie and Lilibet. Child psychology specialists expressed serious concern about how the unfolding events might affect their future. There were calls to shield the young heirs from public discussions, regardless of the circumstances of their birth, to protect them from potential psychological trauma. The British royal family faced an unprecedented challenge. The traditional never explain, never complain tactic proved ineffective in the realities of the modern world, where information spreads instantly via social media. Some close to the court advised adopting a more active stance, even publicly refuting the allegations and initiating legal proceedings to defend the monarchy's honor and dignity. Prince William, the heir to the throne, already in a difficult relationship with his brother, found himself in a particularly delicate position. As a future king, he realized that his reaction to the scandal could have far-reaching consequences for the institution of monarchy. Insiders reported his inclination towards a hardline approach, implying a complete break with Harry and Meghan if the allegations were confirmed. King Charles III was torn between his paternal feelings and his duties as monarch. He understood that any decision he made would profoundly impact his relationship with his younger son and the future of the British crown. Advisors recommended caution and deliberation, but increasing public pressure made such a stance increasingly difficult to maintain. At the same time, experts in digital technology began a thorough analysis of the provided documents, using advanced methods for detecting falsifications. Their work included analyzing digital fingerprints, verifying metadata, and comparing them with known samples of authentic documents. The results of the conducted examination were ambiguous. Some elements of the documents appeared genuine, while others raised serious suspicions. In parallel, independent journalists conducted their own investigations, seeking to find additional evidence or refutations. In the course of their work, they managed to uncover new facts that further complicated the situation. Some of these facts seemed to confirm elements of the official version of events, while others raised new questions and doubts. Public opinion continued to waver between skepticism and belief in various versions of events. Sociological surveys indicated a deep divide within British society. Approximately one-third of respondents expressed confidence in the truthfulness of Meghan and Harry's statements. One-third adhered to conspiracy theories, and the remaining portion found it difficult to determine which version to trust. International experts on monarchy warned that regardless of the truthfulness of the allegations, the mere fact of their existence had already caused serious damage to the reputation of the British royal family. They emphasized that the monarchy rests on public trust and respect, and any doubts about the honesty and transparency of the royal family could have long-term negative consequences for the institution as a whole. Historians also joined the discussion, drawing parallels with past scandals in the British royal family. They noted that, despite the monarchy successfully overcoming numerous crises in the past, the modern era of social media and global communications creates fundamentally new challenges in reputation management. At the epicenter of the unfolding scandal, religious figures, whose ties to the monarchical court are quite strong, did not stand aside. Some called for forgiveness and the restoration of harmony, seeing this as a path to societal healing. Others, conversely, emphasized the paramount importance of truth and integrity in the public sphere, considering it a cornerstone of trust. The feminist community, as often happens in complex situations, was divided in opinion. Some of its representatives defended Meghan, viewing the attacks on her as an injustice towards a woman. Others, conversely, expressed concerns that if the accusations were confirmed, it could seriously damage the reputation of the entire women's rights movement, undermining trust in it. The racial aspect of the scandal also did not escape public attention. Some observers opined that the harshness of the criticism directed at Meghan was partly due to racial prejudices ingrained in society. At the same time, others argued that skin color should not serve as a shield against questions concerning honesty and integrity. Public relations specialists, like seasoned strategists, analyzed the tactics employed by various parties in the conflict. They emphasized that traditional methods of crisis management proved largely ineffective in the modern media landscape, where information spreads at lightning speed and anyone, armed with a smartphone, can become a news source. Lawyers specializing in libel and defamation cases predicted that the scandal could escalate into a series of legal battles, potentially dragging on for years. They pointed to the difficulties associated with proving the truthfulness or falsity of accusations in court, especially given the confidential nature of many medical documents that could become key evidence. Economists, armed with figures and graphs, began analyzing the scandal's potential impact on the British economy. They noted that the royal family is a significant source of tourist revenue for the country, and any decline in its popularity could have tangible economic consequences, affecting tourist flow and investment attractiveness. Security specialists also expressed their concern. They warned that the scandal could provoke an increase in threats against members of the royal family from extremist groups or individuals seeking to exploit the situation to justify violence and destabilize the environment. Diplomats from various countries around the world closely monitored the developments, understanding that the outcome of the scandal could affect the UK's international standing and its relations with other monarchical states, determining the balance of power on the world stage. Scholars studying media and communications used the scandal as a unique case study to investigate the mechanisms of information dissemination in the digital age. They analyzed the role of social media in shaping public opinion and the influence of algorithms on what information reaches various audiences, identifying patterns and trends. Psychologists, researching the scandal's impact on public consciousness, noted how people process contradictory information and form their beliefs under conditions of uncertainty. They warned of potential long-term consequences for public trust in institutions of power, emphasizing the importance of maintaining critical thinking. Ethics experts discussed the moral aspects of the scandal, including questions about the right to privacy, the accountability of public figures, and the ethics of disseminating unverified information. They emphasized the complexity of balancing public interest with the protection of private life, calling for a balanced and responsible approach. Child psychologists consistently expressed deep concern about the emotional well-being of Archie and Lilibet, urgently calling for their protection from any negative consequences of the unfolding scandal, regardless of the circumstances of their birth. The entertainment industry closely monitored developments, recognizing that the outcome of this high-profile case could significantly influence future projects involving Meghan and Harry. Some forward-thinking producers have already begun adjusting their plans, fearing an undesirable association with individuals surrounded by such intense controversy. Charitable organizations dedicated to protecting children's rights saw an opportunity in the scandal to draw widespread public attention to global issues related to minors' rights and their protection from exploitation in the media space. Experts in reputation management meticulously analyzed various strategies that could help each side of the conflict resolve the crisis, emphasizing that in the modern world, regaining lost trust is often much harder than losing it. Sociologists, in turn, studied how this scandal reflects deep social transformations, including changing attitudes towards power, celebrities, and traditional institutions. They hypothesized that the public's reaction to the events could reveal much about contemporary values and priorities guiding society. Crisis communications specialists emphasized that this incident clearly demonstrates the critical importance of proactive preparation for unpredictable crises and the need for prompt and decisive responses in an era of ubiquitous social media. Investigative journalists continued their work, striving to uncover new sources of information and cross-verify existing facts. Their relentless efforts often led to the revelation of new details that further complicated the overall picture of events. Constitutional law experts discussed the potential legal consequences of the scandal, including questions about how changes might be made to the order of succession if a pressing need arose. Representatives of various religious denominations also did not remain aloof, speaking out about the scandal and emphasizing the importance of truth, forgiveness, and reconciliation in resolving conflicts and restoring harmony. Human rights activists utilized this situation as an opportunity to draw attention to broader issues related to power, privilege, and the accountability of public figures. International relations experts analyzed the potential impact of the scandal on the UK's relationships with other states, especially those where the British monarchy still serves as head of state. Media ethics specialists engaged in discussions about the responsibility of journalists and media outlets in covering the scandal, emphasizing the importance of thorough fact-checking and the unacceptability of disseminating unverified information. Public opinion researchers regularly conducted surveys, tracking changes in public attitudes toward various aspects of the scandal. The data obtained indicated that opinions continued to evolve as new information emerged. Digital security experts warned of the growing threat of disinformation and the spread of fake news within the context of the scandal, calling for the development of more advanced tools to identify and counter false information. Lawyers specializing in family law engaged in lively discussions regarding the complex legal dilemmas arising from surrogacy practices and the establishment of rights for children born from such agreements. They meticulously examined issues of parental rights, citizenship, and potential conflicts of interest, striving to develop clear legal frameworks for the protection of all participants in the process. Historians, having deeply studied the institution of monarchy, drew parallels between current events and historical crises, analyzing how the monarchy has adapted to changing conditions over centuries. They noted that, despite upheavals, the monarchy demonstrated resilience, finding new forms of interaction with society and maintaining its significance within the political system. The scientific community utilized the unfolding scandal as an object for comprehensive study across various disciplines, including communications, political science, and sociology. Scholars analyzed media coverage of events, public reaction, political consequences, and social aspects, aiming to identify patterns and draw conclusions about the functioning of modern societal institutions. Reputation management specialists provided consulting support to the involved parties, helping them navigate the complex situation and minimize long-term damage to their image. They developed communication strategies aimed at rebuilding trust, mitigating negative perceptions, and protecting their clients' interests amidst heightened public scrutiny. Experts in child psychology consistently emphasized the need to protect children from potential negative consequences caused by the public scandal, regardless of its outcome. They highlighted the importance of ensuring psychological stability, maintaining positive self-perception, and creating a safe environment for the development of children caught in the spotlight due to the situation. Representatives of professional associations, including medical and legal organizations, actively discussed the ethical aspects of the scandal and its impact on their professional activities, striving to develop uniform standards and principles to guide professionals in such situations. Social media analysts studied the mechanisms of controversial information dissemination on various platforms and developed measures to combat disinformation. They investigated social media algorithms, identified fake accounts and bots spreading false information, and proposed tools for verifying information authenticity and preventing its further spread. Experts on gender issues emphasized that the scandal reflects broader problems related to the treatment of women in public life, especially those who marry into royal families. They analyzed the stereotypes, prejudices, and discriminatory practices that manifest in public discourse and influence the perception of women holding prominent positions in society. Specialists in racial relations continued to analyze the racial aspects of the scandal and their impact on public discussions about equality and justice, noting that racial prejudices and stereotypes can intensify negative perceptions and create additional barriers to achieving mutual understanding and consensus. Representatives of the tourism industry closely monitored developments, recognizing that the outcome of the scandal could affect tourist interest in royal attractions and events. They developed marketing strategies aimed at maintaining a positive image of the country and attracting tourists, despite emerging contradictions and uncertainties. Branding experts analyzed the scandal's impact on the British monarchy's brand and developed strategies for its restoration. They studied public opinion, identified key factors influencing the perception of the monarchy, and proposed measures to strengthen its positive image and enhance public trust. Crisis management specialists analyzed various approaches to crisis management employed by different parties and evaluated their effectiveness in the modern media environment. They studied successful and unsuccessful examples of crisis response, identified key factors influencing the outcome of a crisis, and developed recommendations for effective crisis management in the future. Public relations experts discussed the long-term consequences of the scandal for the relationship between the monarchy and the British people, as well as for the monarchy's role in modern society. They analyzed public opinion, identified trends and sentiments, and proposed strategies to strengthen ties between the monarchy and the people, enhance its legitimacy, and adapt to changing social conditions. Representatives of charitable organizations collaborating with the royal family found themselves in a difficult situation, striving to continue their work despite the controversies surrounding their patrons. They reaffirmed their commitment to their goals and values and sought ways to maintain the trust of their supporters and partners amidst heightened scrutiny and criticism. Protocol and etiquette experts discussed how the scandal might affect traditional approaches to conducting royal ceremonies and public appearances. They considered the possibility of introducing changes to protocol to meet modern demands and public expectations, while retaining respect for the traditions and history of the monarchy. Security specialists continued monitoring potential threats related to the scandal and developed strategies to protect all involved parties. They heightened security measures around royal family members and other individuals in the spotlight, and took steps to prevent possible incidents and provocations. International law experts discussed complex legal questions that might arise if the scandal leads to changes in the status of Meghan and Harry's children, considering issues of citizenship, parental rights, and potential legal disputes. Representatives of the medical community discussed the ethical aspects of surrogacy and the importance of patient confidentiality in the context of the scandal, emphasizing the need to protect the rights and interests of all participants in the process, as well as adherence to medical standards and ethical norms. In the digital age, information technology experts tirelessly work on creating advanced tools for detecting falsified documents and combating disinformation, striving to protect society from deception and manipulation. In parallel, education specialists are actively discussing the possibilities of using this high-profile incident as valuable teaching material. They aim to teach students to think critically and analyze information so that they can independently discern truth from falsehood. Cultural studies experts conduct a deep analysis of how this scandal reflects broader cultural shifts in attitudes towards authority, traditions, and modern life. Representatives of various ethnic groups express their opinions, emphasizing the necessity of justice and equality for all, regardless of their origin. At the same time, family therapy specialists examine the impact of public scandals on family relationships and emphasize the importance of providing professional support to those caught in such situations. Change management experts analyze strategies that enable various organizations and institutions to adapt to challenges arising from such scandals and develop effective methods for overcoming crisis situations. Research ethics specialists discuss the moral aspects of studying and analyzing the private lives of public figures, even for academic purposes, striving to establish boundaries between public interest and the right to privacy. Representatives of various professional communities, from doctors to lawyers, discuss how this scandal might affect their professional activities and ethical standards, seeking ways to maintain public trust in their profession. As the scandal unfolds, it becomes increasingly evident that its consequences extend far beyond one family or even a single institution. It has transformed into a mirror reflecting broader questions about power, truth, trust, and change in modern society, prompting reflection on the values upon which our civilization is built. Regardless of what truth emerges about the births of Archie and Lilibet, this scandal has already left an indelible mark on the history of the British monarchy and on public consciousness. It has clearly demonstrated that in the age of social media and instant communications, even the most powerful institutions can be vulnerable to doubt and contradiction, and that a reputation built over centuries can be shattered overnight. Only time will tell if the British monarchy can recover from this crisis and adapt to the new realities of the digital age. However, it is already clear that traditional approaches to reputation management and crisis communications need re-evaluation in a world where everyone can become a news source, and information spreads at incredible speed. The story of Meghan and Harry has become not just a family drama, but a symbol of profound changes in the relationship between power and society, between tradition and modernity, between public life and the private sphere. And regardless of how this story ends, it has already changed our understanding of how modern institutions of power function and how they must adapt to the challenges of the 21st century. This story is far from over. Each day brings new discoveries, new theories, and new questions. And while we await final answers, we can only observe the unfolding of one of the most captivating and controversial sagas of our time, one that compels us to ponder the future of power and society.